Okay, here is the second part of this. This is problem number 1 from item number 8 from the homework items. Again, this video is optional. I'm not sure if I mentioned that before. This is mostly if you had some trouble with it or you want to check your answers, you can find the answers in the video. And if you just want to check your answers, you can always fast forward to a few minutes until you see the answers. But if you need help for how to get them, I'll go over it here. So let's see. We've got this equation 3x minus 2 for this one. We're going to plug in the values of x into it to get the corresponding values of y. Now, let's see. For x equals -1 here, that just means we're going to find this value of y, that y is going to be 3 times -1 minus 2, which gives you -3 minus 2, which is -5. And we're going to do this with the rest of them too. So you should get these answers, -5, -2, 1, 4, 7. Now we're going to graph the xy points to graph the equation. So the graph of this equation is the set of all of the xy points like this that make it work. Again, because if you were thinking about what the graph of an equation means, or what a point on the graph of an equation means, it means that if you plug in this x equals -1, for example, and y equals -5, it should make this equation true, and it will if you check it. So anyways, we got -1 here, -5 is right there. That's the first one. 0, -2 is right here. 1, 1 is here. 2, 4 is here. And we have 3, 7 is right there. So all of those points are on the graph of the equation because they are xy pairs that make the equation work when you plug it in. And to get all of the points, we can draw a line through it to include all the points in the middle, because there's other points that work too. For example, if x was like 0.5, let's see what happens if we plug in y equals 3 times 0.5, which you know is right here between 1 and 2, or sorry, between 0 and 1. We got that -2, so that will end up giving you y equals -0.5. So that means this has the point 0.5, -0.5, which is right about here. And anyways, that's another one of the points on the graph. And if we want to include all of those points, like we don't actually have to plug in every single one and then draw a million little dots, we can just draw a line through it, like so. And that came out looking okay. Now let's give the xy coordinates of the y-intercept. So for part C here, the y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis, and that point is right here. And if it's on the y-axis, that means you didn't move left or right at all. You moved 0 units left or right, so the x-coordinate is 0, the y-coordinate is -2. So that's the y-intercept. For part D, we need the x-intercept. So the x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis here. So we don't quite have that on the graph. We don't know exactly what it is. It looks like it's got to be somewhere between like 0.5 and x equals 1. But what do we know about it? we know that you don't, if it's on the x-axis, you don't move up or down at all. You move 0 units in the y direction. So the y coordinate is going to be 0, but we don't know what the x coordinate is. So to find that x coordinate, what we can do is, oh, well, this says estimate it. So I guess you can estimate it by just looking at it. I don't know if that's 0 here, 0.5 over here. It looks a little bit closer to 0.5 than to 0, so maybe it's 0.3. I think it's actually 1/3 if you were to do this with solving the equation. So, but this looks pretty close. So that's an estimate of the xy coordinates of the x-intercept there. Here's the next one of these types of problems where we're just going to graph an equation. I want to give everybody a reminder, if you're watching this, that these problems are from the homework items, and it was a do type item. It didn't say watch or read. So do type items, you're supposed to do them yourself. These videos are a little bit of extra help, and it's okay to get extra help. If you struggle doing it yourself. The only thing you have to remember to do is to give credit. That's the most important thing. That means just say if you're checking your answers and you get a question wrong and you see the right answer in the video and you're doing everything right here, I want to encourage you to do all this stuff. And you cross out your answer and you write the new answer. Just write corrected from video. You can write credit if you want. Something like that. It's just so I can see what you did originally and what you needed to get help with. If you just write down the answers from the video, then that's copying. Without giving credit, then that's copying, and that's not okay. Anyways, let's do this problem. This one, I'm going to not actually do all of the work on the video because it's a little tedious. So I'm going to pause it here and write out the work, and you'll see the answers in a moment. Here's what this should look like. We've got these 5 points plotted. And a thing I want to point out about this problem that might be handy later is you'll notice the 3 in the denominator of it, of the slope there. And when you have a 3 in the bottom of that fraction in the slope, then plugging in values of x like -3, 0, and 3 here make it so those will cancel out with that denominator, and they make it so you have nice whole number integer values of y, which makes it a lot easier to graph, makes it easier to do the arithmetic. So if I gave you an equation like this and I just said plug in some points and graph it, if I were you, I would choose numbers like -3, 0, and 3 that are really easy to do the arithmetic with. And you can see that those points here end up right on the grid, so you don't have to go like in between those y coordinates to estimate it. And it makes the arithmetic easier. For number 3 here, I'm going to do the same thing, plug in the values of x to get y. Off screen, so you'll see the answers in a few moments. We'll also graph it, and I'll answer these questions C and D after that. The graph should look like this. It ends up as a parabola because this is a quadratic equation. Let's see. So if we're going to give the coordinates of the x-intercepts, that's where it crosses the x-axis here. Right there and right there for part C. So the coordinates of those points is 0, 0, and the other one is 3, 0. So this one has 2 different x-intercepts. For the y-intercepts, well, there's actually only one y-intercept here. The only point on the y-axis is this one. That is both the y-intercept and one of the x-intercepts. So that's just 0, 0. So that's the end of our review. I just wanted to spend a day or two going over some of the real basics of algebra, get a little practice, a little warm up before we start diving right into the material. So the next video you watch is going to be a lecture sort of video where you're going to be taking notes on it. And in the lecture video, you don't have to give credit for every single thing you write down from the lecture, because that's going to be almost all of it. That's going to be most of what you write down is going to be that. But there will be some questions thrown in that you have to answer. And I'll see you later in class. Have a good day, or whatever time of day it is wherever you are.